Welcome back, Wokeland. We're back.
y'all.
We're back with another episode
Of Wokeland.
of Wokeland. We're here following up, doing part 2 of our colorism series.
Yes.
This time we have the ladies in the house
Yes, we do.
to share a Black woman's perspective on how colorism impacts them. Shout out to the guys that were here
Shout
last
out
conversation.
To BB and Jared of the Humble Loser podcast.
Yeah. So make sure you check out their podcast if you are not familiar. But today we have two friends with us. We have Nchimunya and Shay. And Shay is no stranger to the show.
Yes.
Shay,
what episode were you
it
on,
was
Shay?
campus activism.
Oh, yes. That was a good episode.
So Shay brought the house down on that episode. And now we are here to talk about colorism with the ladies. And it's a different, I know it was kind of tough for us when trying to select the women that we wanted on our panel for today. Do you want to talk about how we had to decipher what was light skin, what was dark skin, how we wanted to be sensitive to the people who may not classify as either.
Yeah.
If the mid-rangers needed to be part of this discussion, if the brown skin, you know what I mean? Or if this should have just been, a binary light and dark, and where do brown skin girls fall into the conversation?
Where do biracial people fall into the conversation?
Yeah.
We were going through it, trying to figure out how do people identify? Can I call Elsa a light-skinned woman just because that's how I see her as? Or should I go by how she identifies as? So we were going through it, trying to figure out, okay, who can we ask to join us on this episode? So
yeah,
super happy today with who we got. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
My name is Nchimunya. So I live in Oakland. I've been here for, I think, a little bit over, I think I just hit my 1 year. But I've been in the Bay and San Francisco for about 8 years now, going on 9.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay. That was a great intro. You guys, I'm Shay Bones. I live in Oakland. I'm a model. Been on here before, so these are great friends to be with.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm excited to get into this topic and be with other women that are in the same situation to go through this complex issue in our community. So thank you again for having me.
Of course. Complex indeed. So maybe to kick it off, we'll kick it off similarly to how we kicked it off with the guys. How did you both first know you were Black, or that you were different or dark or light or othered?
I grew up in Zambia, which is in Africa. So I think for me, I was always surrounded by Black people, Black women, right? I was always the darkest of my sisters, and I knew that I was, my sisters were lighter than me, all my cousins were lighter than me. So I always knew that I was dark skinned, but kind of in my life, it's played out in different ways where I've felt praised for being a dark skinned woman, and then in certain moments I've felt bad for being not bad, but stereotyped or stereotyped for being a Black woman, or there have been negative connotations and implications and things like that. So I think I've always I knew it from a very young age.
Yeah, for sure.
That's real.
For me, I grew up in a Black house. So to me, I'm Black, grew up Black, always Black. It wasn't until I think high school that I got hit with the, you're light skinned. And then I was like, okay, girl, I'm Black. I was like, I'm Black. They're like, no, you're light skinned. I'm like, okay, I'm okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And then how that's played out in other parts of my life, I feel like it's really played out when it comes to dating. And people being interested in me as, I've gotten older and whatever. But yeah, it was really high school where the colorism kicked in. And then I really started to notice because other people kept pointing it out. And they're like, oh, you act super light skinned. You don't text back. It's I probably didn't want to text you. So yeah, it definitely came out. And I feel like it definitely came out more in that area.
Yeah.
To where that's where I really noticed it in my adolescence, teenage years, and being a full adult now.
Right.
Yeah.
I think mine also came out in like high school, middle school, high school,
right.
because I grew up in Sacramento, and the Sacramento heat is not no joke. Okay, so I was absorbing all that melanin.
Heat,
I remember just like being bullied for like my skin tone, and like this girl like literally pointed at the back of my neck, and she was like, "Oh, you're so dark," and I was like, it wasn't said in any like complimentary way, and I was just like, for a while, like I spent like a week like just like when I was in the shower like trying to scrub my neck because she like pointed it out, and I was like, I really felt insecure about it because like my skin tone is like, you know, I'm dark skinned, but there's parts of my body that are lighter than the other, and for her just to point that out, I was like, that stuck with me. That was a core memory that stuck with me.
Yeah.
Kids were
Not to chime in.
ill.
But
Yes,
I
chime
actually grew up in Sac too.
Yeah.
So, girl, I already know.
I
I don't even know
already
what part
know.
you was in, but I already know,
Yeah.
child.
Natomas, South Natomas.
Oh, I was in East But no, it's really the same. It's
Yeah,
really-
I mean, it's like that everywhere. Before I realized or I was told I was light skinned, I was first told I was black. Like, I was first made fun of for being black. And then similar, I think, middle school, high school is when people started calling me out for being different things. And it was different. I was different to everybody. To some people, I was dark skinned. To some people, I was light, like depending on their ethnicity. But yeah, the first thing that I can recall is just like being called the N word in elementary school, being made fun of for being black.
Elementary.
Yes. I was like one of 3 black kids at my school. And so for me, my like first memory was like just being told that I was black. And then as I got older, it was like a differentiated kind of black.
Yeah.
So that was like my experience.
Yeah. I think for me, like, I was trying to think, like, when did I first, I guess, realize I was black? But for me, it honestly didn't come until, like, high school, like, literally 9th grade.
That you were black?
I knew I was black, but no one had ever said no one had ever
Negative.
made a comment to me, no N-word, no, oh, you so dark skin or whatever. Like, no one had ever made a comment to me about my skin tone until high school. I don't know if that makes me fortunate or unfortunate, but it wasn't until then. And it wasn't even a diss. It was more just like, oh, because I'm also African, I'm Nigerian. And so, like, I grew up thinking, like, I'm just a Nigerian African-American person, but I never really had anyone make that an issue. So when I got to high school, someone was just like, oh, like, I told them I was Nigerian, and they were like, oh, I didn't know you were African. I thought you were just black. And I was like, oh, what? Like, I'm African. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not. And I had to reconcile, like, wait, yes, I am black. And I knew I was black, but it was more so like I've always carried myself as an African first.
Yeah.
So that black identity for me, like growing up, that was like a different culture. So, but in high school, I was like, oh no, like, yes, people also see me as like a black person, just like any other black person with my skin tone because I'm darker. That's also who I am. That's also part of my identity.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think for a while, like, I just didn't really hear those comments until high school. And it wasn't even like a bad comment. It was just more like you're not just like African or an African who's American, you are also black. And so then after that that's when I started getting like comments about skin tone and like, because I'd be like, oh, I'm about to go tan in my backyard, and they're like, girl, you about to get real black, you already dark, like you about to get real black if you do that. I'm like, is that a bad thing? Like, I don't know. So but yeah, honestly for me it wasn't until high school where anyone commented on anything, which is kind of crazy.
I know. I think that is a good thing. That
Is it?
I mean, high school, yeah.
I
Girl, I was fighting for my life when I was 7 years old. Like, what?
I'm dead.
She was
Being
like, wait,
called
what?
the N-word.
Right. What does that mean?
I know.
Did y'all
like,
even
what
learn
is
about slavery at that point? Like,
I don't think so. But like similar to Nayo, like I grew up I'm Ethiopian. I grew up in a very Ethiopian household.
yeah.
So like I grew up knowing like what parts of I don't think I learned about slavery yet in school, but I learned about it at home.
Yeah.
You know, my parents like very much instilled in me like Ethiopian history, African history. So I kind of had that context. So yeah, when I heard the N-word, I may not have known that it was as bad as it was, but I knew it was inflammatory. I knew it was bad, and I was ready to fight, but I didn't. You know what I mean? I was just like, wow, like how offensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and then it was a very different world several years later when I'm now like in middle school or high school, and like people are, essentially like praising me for what I look like when like in elementary school people were making fun of me for what I look like.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like a weird thing to understand how that kind of shifted over the years.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because yours kind of started in like elementary school, right? And then by like middle school and high school, you were being praised for that. I think like from my experience, it was like middle school and high school, like I kind of like went through it in those years, right? And then when I got to college, people were like, oh my God, your skin is so beautiful, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I have been made fun of for all these years.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when I got into like kind of like my adult years and I'm getting into my womanhood, like is when I'm starting to get praised for my skin color. And, you know, it's not always praised, but like for the most part, it's like there was a switch that happened and I had to be like, what was going on?
It's confusing.
Yeah.
It's confusing. And like that switch, I think for everybody, like not even with just skin tone, but just like maybe people considering you less attractive or ugly, quote unquote, when you're younger because of your skin tone, and then you get older and then like all of a sudden everyone wants you because of it.
Yeah.
It's so like confusing and just like what's going on, and you almost don't trust it. Like, are y'all really, is this really what you think, or are you just like fetishizing me or whatever, saying this because you think you have to? That's
it really like warps your self-image.
Yeah.
And like it's you go through these different points in your life, in your adolescence, in your adulthood, and probably even now, right? Late 20s, early 30s, where you constantly are seeing yourself in a different way because of how like beauty standards and social constructs are able to dictate what's in fashion and what's beautiful for the moment. And we talked about this yesterday, like women, and especially Black women, like our appearance and the way that we look is so highly politicized. Right. And it's weaponized and it's broken down, and there's so much attached to it. Shay, you kind of talked about this earlier, but I want to know, like, what were some stereotypes associated to the way, you know, you looked? Like, you were talking about how you didn't take somebody back and they're like, oh, you acting light skinned. Like, how did that, like, what were some other stereotypes and how did that like affect you?
I just think definitely the hypersexual portrayal.
Even from a younger age.
I think because, well, I started working when I was 16. So, and everyone at my job knew I was 16. So even when it was like common, like, oh, you have a light skin, like people really, the men didn't really cross the line just because of how young I was. But once I got, 17, 18, once I, turned legal, then I feel like it was then like the hypersexualization started, like when it came to like approaching me for dating, even though it was, it was there, during those years. But again, I wasn't really out like dating. So it was just like, oh, you're a light skinned demon. Like, and I was like, oh, I was like, okay.
Wow.
It was just, it was just very hypersexual, or, just, oh, you have hella hoes. Oh, you don't text back. Oh, all the numbers in your phone not saved. Like, it just, and I was like, where are all these assumptions coming from? I'm like, some of them might be true.
But it has nothing to do with your complexion.
It has nothing to do with my complexion.
Right.
So, that's kind of how I think people see me and they think they know me off of their stereotype in their head. And then when they actually come up and talk to me, that's when they're like, they get turned off.
Oh my gosh.
And then they're like,
100.
It's like, right.
Yeah.
I was like, thank you, goodbye, because I'm not the one. Right? I'm not the one that you want.
Why do you think they get turned off though?
Because I think the stereotype that they have in their head, like, I'm supposed to be flattered by these things, I'm supposed to be gawking, with male attention, and oh, that's all I want. I want your money. Like, no, it's like I'm educated. Thank you. Number two, I know how to work. I know how to get my own money. I don't need a man. My mom taught me that. So, and it's just like, I think during college, definitely, because I definitely like had my revolution of like mind and getting the knowledge and stuff, to where that's all like I was talking, at that point. So what you were coming to get from me is not what you got.
Right.
And I read your whole life, sir.
And they weren't expecting that from a girl that looks like you.
Exactly. And that's like, that's why I always say, I'm like, it's until people get to really talk to me is when I open my mouth, is like, either you're going to go or you're going to be like, oh, okay, that's cool. So I always like for people to just, talk to me before they assume, because also it's like, oh, I thought you were hella mean.
Yeah.
You think you're better than everyone else. Yeah, I got that a lot, and I'm just like, girl, I'll be minding my business.
Right.
Like, I'll be seeing other pretty girls. Like, oh, you pretty girl. Like,
Right.
you know, but it's just like, oh, you think you're better than everyone else, and it's
Yeah.
like, I didn't, so
Right.
that's what that stereotype came with, and it's so exhausting trying to explain that to the point where if you want to believe that, that's cool.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure. Nchimunya?
Any like stereotypes that you've dealt with?
Stereotypes that I've dealt with. I think the one that sticks out to me the most about, being like a darker skinned woman. I was out at a bar with a friend's friend, and she was light skinned, and this guy was like trying to get her attention, try to talk to her, and you can tell the girl was like not really feeling him, right? So then I like stepped in, and I was like, bro, she's not really feeling you, like, like just keep it pushing. And he was like, it's always a dark skinned ugly bitch. And I was like,
Oh, no.
I was like, okay. And like, for someone, like, I guess that's the stereotype, is like, oh, I'm trying to talk to a girl. It's always like the dark skin, ugly bitch is going to try to like get her away or cock block, right? And it's like, she's really not interested in you, sir.
It has nothing to do with me.
It has nothing to do with me.
It has nothing to do with me. And I'm just like, I'm trying to get the girls out. We don't want your attention. She clearly doesn't want it. And then for him just to like say that, I was just like, okay, like, I don't know. I don't think this has happened to me where it's like a non-black man has called me like ugly to my face.
Oh, it was a non-black man.
Oh, I'm sorry, it was a black man, but like I've never had a non-black man say it to me. So I was like, for it to come from a black man, I was like,
We're going to get into how black men perpetuate colorism in a second.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but...
Well, I was going to ask, like, first of all, that's disgusting, terrible, like... It seems like you handled it with grace, though. Like, what?
I almost didn't, but I was like, I think I was just like so shocked in that moment where I was just like,
yeah,
okay. And I had to like think about like, I've gone out with like, so many of my other friends, that are medium skin or like dark skin, and that usually doesn't happen to me. And that's not the first time. I think that was the first time that happened.
Yeah.
But it happened again where, well, kind of in the same, scenario, in the same breath, like, dude trying to talk to a light-skinned friend, and I'm like, yo, she's not really feeling you. And then he tries to boss up on me, and I'm like, if I was light-skinned, you would not try to boss up on me. Like, I really thought that man was gonna swing on me that day. Oh, and my sister was like, girl, just let it go, let it go, because he was like really hype with me. And I was like, is it because I'm dark-skinned? Like, what's the real reason, right?
Yeah, damn. Well, yeah, I was gonna say, like, those examples, like I said, discussed, it sounds like they mainly came from black men. Though,
yeah.
Which we gonna get there. However, have you guys experienced like any stereotypes from black women? Like, have you been stereotyped by other black women?
I'll go first. Yeah, I've realized and noticed that unfortunately my experience is a lot of black, and it's a lot of older black women that try to take my blackness away from me. Like, I straight up had someone tell me, an older black woman that was like, oh, so what do you mix with? And I'm like, I'm black. Yeah, I'm black. Like, period. I grew up in a black household. Yeah. That's the only way I identify with. Like, I don't know my paternal side. I have an idea. Yeah. But yeah, I'm black. So the other side really doesn't matter to me because it was not in my life. And she was like, oh, well, I thought you were a little bit of black. Ooh. Yeah. No, I'm black. Like, so what are you trying to say? It was like, it doesn't really matter if someone's like genetically mixed with something else. Yeah. Like, if you didn't grow up that way and you don't even look that way, because it's like, I'm pretty sure people definitely do think I'm mixed. I know my paternal side is something else, of the Latin descent, but again, like, I look like a black woman. I am a black woman. When you talk to me, I'm black. So for her to try to take that all away from me and minimalize it to, oh, I thought you were like 5%, girl. Not 5%. Girl, don't try to play me, like, because I don't look anything else. So it's always been in those situations where they're trying to like take it away, and it's like, we know there are light-skinned black people, right? There also are biracial people, but I am not in that category. I'm a lighter toned black woman. Yeah. So it's always been older black women. I don't know why.
Interesting.
But yeah, that's where I come in contact with those experiences of taking away my blackness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you Nchimunya?
Not that I can think of right now. Like, there's not any like standout examples.
Okay.
What about you?
Where Black women have stereotyped me,
or just stereotypes in general?
Yeah, stereotypes in general. Man, I wish something stood out because I'm sure it's happened. But it's so interesting because, like I said, I feel like I haven't had a lot of standout experiences based on my skin tone. It's primarily been, like, for me, what I get a lot is, like, featureism. So, like, I get, like, oh, like, comments about my nose or comments about my lips and, like, oh, you got them, like, African lips or, like, whatever, like, you know, like, or, like, that type of thing. But I'm thinking about, like, what might have been more a stereotype because I'm dark skinned. And I'm blanking right now.
Yeah.
It's okay.
So do you have anything else?
I feel like I have so many.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you might, like, some people will look at me and feel like I don't deal with, like, featureism too. But I remember growing up, kids making fun of me and saying I had DSL. Do you remember what that was?
Yep.
Oh,
I remember me and my best friend.
And I was like,
oh no.
And I was so, like, little innocent me was like, what is that?
Yeah.
And I remember when someone finally, I had to ask, like, a guy cousin or something. And I was
You
so
asked a guy cousin too. Oh my
offended.
gosh.
Did you?
No.
Oh, yeah, I had to because I didn't know what, they didn't tell me what the acronym. You know, I was just given the DSL and I was
they
like,
just gave you the abbreviation.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Me? I was like, no way. You know, at that age. And I'm like, wait, whoa. But yeah, I so many stereotypes. I feel like everyone feels like, you know, I was too good or I was stuck up or because I was light skinned or same thing too, like just didn't feel like I was black enough, like people trying to take my black card away. One thing I feel like was so prominent for me, and I'm sure it applies whether you're dark or light, is people just try to like control how I behaved because of how I looked. Like they had an expectation of my behavior. Like I needed to be docile or feminine or, you know, I had to subscribe to their way of how I should behave. And similar to you, when you were like, well, when they finally get to know me, then like turn it off. And it's like when you really get to know me, and I'm talking like radical black shit. I'm talking like black socialism, right? Then you're like, what is wrong with this girl? This girl funky, right?
Yeah.
So it was always like this misconception of like who I am, and from black men and black women, just trying to like control how I see myself, control what I look like and what I'm connected to. Of course, the whole like European beauty standard thing, which like rocks me to my core every time because it's just like, oh my God, if I were to like accept a lot of what is said about the way that I look, I would have a crazy identity crisis.
Right.
And I've had one. You know what I mean? And I'm too old to have one right now. Like I can't let people control how I see myself within this social construct. I have to constantly bring myself into this alternative space that is very Afrocentric. Otherwise, I'm going to think I look like a European woman. Yeah. And that serves nobody. Yeah. And I don't understand how Black people, African people were the first to walk this earth and somehow we can look like them. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. You know? So yeah, a lot of my identity being questioned, a lot of my like personality being questioned because of what I look like, that wasn't really like rooted in truth, but just some stereotype.
Yeah. So I've thought about it more and I remember now. Yeah. So I think for me, like the one that stood out the most to me was just more so like around like strength and masculinity, like being seen as, and I also was an athlete, so that didn't really help. But a lot of the time I feel like when I would go out or like wear certain things, or like I remember having like a vivid memory of like wearing a skirt in college and like someone was like, oh, like your calves, like you look like do you really want to wear that skirt, basically, like you look masculine. And like I'm sure if, you know, maybe a different girl who maybe was of a lighter skin tone or not like me, that would have been that. First of all, that comment wouldn't have happened. And second of all, that comment wouldn't have flown. Yeah. So I think for me, like, because of how I look and like the spaces I've been in, people automatically assume I can handle certain things that hurt me. Like, physically, like if I'm at the hospital, I feel like there's times where I've dealt with pain in the hospital and people are like, oh, no, it's okay. Like, no, you haven't, like, it's not that bad. And I'm like, no, like that hurts. But they're dismissing what I'm saying. And, I think this is a lot of Black women's experience in general, despite skin tone. But I feel like a lot of the times I do get that, like, oh, like, you're so strong, like, that, like, more masculine view from people.
Yeah.
And, like, I can't help to think, like, is it because I'm darker skinned? So that's kind of been an experience that comes up a lot for me. But I also think it's something that a lot of Black women deal with.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. That idea that, like, darker skin somehow is, I don't know.
It's like closer to masculinity, therefore stronger, therefore immune to pain.
Exactly. Yeah. How do you guys think your femininity is, like, gauged or perceived based on how you look? Since Anayo brought it up. Like, and it's funny because, like, in my case, I feel like people expect me to be more feminine. And, like, I'm constantly fighting with family, friends, foes, everybody, because they're like, can you just... sit, like, cross your legs. Can you just wear a purse? Right. Can you just, be nicer to men and, like, can you just, it's always like, can you just be softer? Can you be, and again, that may be more of a Black woman thing. But I feel like, my femininity gets called into question too sometimes.
Yeah.
So I
think mine does too, especially like being a darker skinned woman again, like people are always just like, how do I explain it?
They're like, smile more.
Yeah. Smile more. My resting bitch face
is crucial.
Strong. Mine is very so strong. I'm trying to smile for the cameras today. But no, she's very strong. And I'll just be like, I'll just be chilling. Yeah. And I'm just like, I'm chilling. I'm not upset. And people want me to be like delicate, right? Yeah. And then expect me to be like soft. And, when they really get to know me and they're talking to me like, oh, you're so spicy. And then that combination with the dark skin, like, then they start sexualizing me, and you can tell that, like, it's turning them on, and, like, it's, doing something, and I'm like, no, like, this is just my personality. I'm spicy with mostly everyone. It's not, like, I'm not being spicy to entice you, right? Yeah. It's just, like, who I am.
Yeah. And that just brought the Jezebel stereotype, too. Like, or the like, the sexual object, like, just something to be desired and like had sex with. Yeah. And it's crazy like having this conversation because I feel like as I'm talking about a lot of these things, I'm like, but all Black women face this. Like it's so hard. Like for me, it's difficult to space out what is a Black woman thing, problem, issue versus like colorism. And then it kind of goes to our next question of like, I think we're talking about dating. Like we were talking yesterday, I think colorism, it's so interesting how the people that are upholding it for Black women is truly Black men. Yeah. And even in our last episode, BB and Jared were like, yes, Black men perpetuate this. So, and so like there are things that happen to Black women, but I think as we're talking, like a lot of the experiences we're talking about that are colorism specifically, sounds like it's like Black men induced, like literally Black men stereotypes about our femininity, about, how pretty we are, about
Kevin
us
Samuels, R.I.P.
Oh, I'm glad you said it, girl.
Oh, child. He was so irrelevant. I forgot that happened. Child.
Oh.
Anyway.
He just passed away yesterday.
R.I.P. to Kevin Samuels.
R.I.P.
Regardless of our feelings about him, R.I.P.
R.I.P. That's all you get from us. But anyway, yeah. So going off of that, like, I feel like, do you guys feel the same way? Like when we think about colorism, do you feel like it's something like who's upholding it in your mind? Like, obviously there's bigger implications, like societal implications that come from colorism. Yeah. But in our like daily lives as Black women, like who do you feel or where do you feel it's coming from the strongest?
I think it's coming from like society as a whole, but also Black men have a very, very strong pull in it as well. Like they have a strong hold in it instead of, the world is like kind of beating us down, right? We're not seen in media, and we're not, celebrated in media. And the group of people that, should celebrate us don't. The people that should celebrate us, like, bring us down, and they're like, oh, you're dark skinned or you're light skinned, or you're not my type. I don't do dark skinned women. I don't do light skinned women. And it's kind of disappointing to the fact that like they have Black mothers, Black sisters, and it's like you want your Black mothers and your Black sisters to be loved, but you don't even love Black women. So it's like, who's supposed to love your mom and your sisters if, in a romantic way, right? If you, in your romantic life, you don't even love Black women.
Yeah.
And you tear them down every chance you get.
Yeah. That's fact. It's sad because, it seems like Black men have taken on the role of like the white supremacist, like patriarchal norms. And it's unfortunate because Black men suffer from colorism too.
Yeah, they do.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like that's that internal like self-hatred that they are now like inflicting on Black women.
Yeah, the self-hatred.
Self-hatred. Knowing that though, how do you guys, I'm assuming y'all date Black men or have dated Black men in your past, knowing that, like, how do you think your complexion plays a role in like the dating marketplace?
Well,
Marketplace?
a marketplace, girl.
I don't know why I said that, but I said it. Yeah.
I have not dated a Black man.
Oh.
At all.
Ever. Oh, okay.
Just because all the Black men that I attracted or were attracted to me, really were coming at me from a stereotype, and I just couldn't. And that was light-skinned men, that was dark-skinned men, and I had went on a date with he was like brown-skinned caramel, and he was like, it was the summertime. And he's like, I get gold in the summertime.
Right.
So he was like, oh, I thought you were lighter than what you were. And I was like,
oh, he was turned off.
Yeah, I was like,
lighter.
I was like, oh, you thought I was white? Oh, I'm not. I'm not sweetie. I was like, white. No, I'm not. So this is what it is.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was a little. It was the summertime, so I had a tan.
Of course.
But I was still just taken aback. Like, wow, you really just said that to my face.
Yeah.
Like, wow, that's really wild. So, and just meeting other men, other Black men, that it was clear they were dealing with like a complex, a colorism complex, and I really I couldn't do it. I never found any or came into contact with any Black male that I was like, okay, like we can sit there and like go date. And I'm all for Black love. I just have not experienced it. Yeah. And all my Black male friends that are literally just my friends, I do have Black male friends, and they have never. And I don't know if it's just. I don't know. They're all dark-skinned Black men. And they've always been respectful of who I am. It's never been any stereotyping going on. Yeah. And that's just them coming from a friend. Like, it's always been like that. So I've never met anyone romantically that didn't come with the whole colorism complex. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Not surprising, but
right, yeah.
Not one single one.
I know it's
okay,
so
what
bad.
What are we defining as like dating? If we don't mind getting into it, like
like dating. Oh, girl.
Like, are we talking about like being in a relationship? Or
like getting to know. Yeah.
Okay.
Getting to know someone, or like being in a relationship, talking, like.
I feel like, like getting to know someone, like going on multiple dates, you know, even before you're making it official, you know, just like. I think, when you're dating, you want to enjoy spending, time with that person. Yeah. So I never, after like one date, it was like, oh no, I'm not about to deal with that again. Like, so it never got past the hi, hello. It was like, okay, goodbye.
Yeah.
Block.
Damn. Okay.
See?
So
it'd be, wow. That's crazy. What about you?
Repeat the question.
Oh, what, how do you think like your complexion plays a role when it comes to dating?
I think in kind of like high school and middle school, was never the girl that was like chosen to prom, was never the girl that was asked out to dances. I think when I had a prom date, it was like, I think we were sitting in biology lab, and one of my white, lab partners was like, I don't have a date. Do you want to go to prom? And I was like, cool. Yeah. So there was never like, there was in high school, there was, those Black girls that like got chosen by guys and all these other things. And I was just kind of like, stuck in the shadows. And then again, when I came to college was when people, like, when I kind of like felt that attention on me, and it was kind of like an interesting attention. And that's when I realized, like, oh, like, my skin tone is kind of like a pretty dark skin tone.
Yeah.
Like, and I had to kind of, again, break from the shell of like the bullying and the harassment based on my tone, and then come into it as a woman. Like, I've had to kind of decipher with men, like, is my skin tone being appreciated or fetishized? Because those are two completely different things. And as soon as I smell, someone fetishizing my skin tone, I'm like, yep, that'll do it. You don't have to worry about me. You do not have to worry about me.
Yeah.
Because, it's one thing to, like, love and appreciate and, like, compliment my skin tone, but it's, like, one thing to be, like, gawking at it and, like, chocolate, melanin, like... all the words we don't heard it all. And sometimes I'm just like, it's not attractive. It's not necessary. And it's I don't like it, but because like I'm more than just my skin tone, right? Like
absolutely.
I think sometimes men are like, oh, she's so pretty, she has like such dark skin, and then they start talking to me and they're like, oh, she's spicy, she's not your typical little feminine, delicate like a flower type of girl. So yeah.
That's so interesting you say that, because I feel like when like dark skinned women are fetishized, like it's like their skin tone, like I haven't had a guy come to me and be like, oh my gosh, you are such a beautiful sunrise caramel brown Sunday, you know what I mean, type thing. I don't get that. No, I don't get that. Right?
If I had $1, we would all be somewhere in Dubai,
right?
living lavish.
But I know that, of course, that there are, like, and Shay, you talked about this, that there are guys out there who have preferences for light skinned women. So it's almost like they just want light skinned women just as like a trophy, just to say that they got them, they bagged them, so they can rap to their favorite lyrics with their light skinned girl in their passenger seat. We about to get into that. We're going to talk about some music. But dark skinned women, it's like, oh my God, beautiful, dark. Nile Valley.
They pull out all the Africa.
Mother Africa. The darker the berry, the sweeter the juice.
Okay,
all of it can go on and on and on. But like with me, it's just like you just got a light skinned girl. You know what I mean? But it's still problematic. Yeah. Because it's this like trophy thing that occurs. What's your experience like?
I love how Elsa's I just want y'all to know that I told Elsa she has to be open on this episode, and now every damn question. So what about you? Okay, girl, I'm gonna share. Damn.
Right, girl. I'm just checking in.
I can't. No, but it's similar to Nchimunya, like literally. And we were talking about this earlier, like the switch that happened when you were younger. I got zero attention, like zero. Like
none.
I actually had an experience in elementary school where I told a guy I liked him, and he was like pissed, like pissed. He was like, no, like damn, like
how dare you?
Yeah,
like, how dare you like me? And I was like, oh wow, like little third grade self was hurt. But I think all of a sudden for me, it also switched in college. Like it actually wasn't until I went abroad to London, and I don't know what it was. I don't know what was up in London at the time, or like that's just how London gets down. But I just got so much attention from men that I had never gotten before, like literally never. Yeah. So I was confused, and like I didn't even think like, oh, am I being fetishized right now? I was just like, confused. You're just like, so I had never experienced this emotion.
Never experienced it, right?
So I was like, oh, okay. And then after that, like, as I got more attention, like, yes, I same exact thing. Like,
how
for some reason, when it comes to me, like, hey, like African queen,
right?
Okay, like dark chocolate skin, you look like Serena, like all of that, like just everything, like pulling out all the ad libs, all the lyrics, all the things. I'm just like, what's going on here? Right. Like, what's happening? Yeah. So I feel like I went from invisible to like visible and fetishized, yes, and just like, oh, like. And some men, like, literally, that's how they talk. They'll be like, hey, queen. Yeah. Like, whatever. But now I'm like, what's going on? Like, I'm on my P's and Q's. Right. I'm very alert. So
that's true.
It's just interesting. Like, I don't know when that switch happened. But, yeah, it was similar, like, college for me. Like, but I don't know what was happening at the time.
I think we all kind of went through this wave of, like, high school and middle school. We didn't really, like, everyone was just trying to to find themselves, right? And then when we got to college is when we were like, okay, this is what I'm actually attracted to. Now I don't have to be bullied into, liking one thing. Like, people really grew into who they were. And when people, hopefully I'm not trying to speak on black men for them, but like maybe that's when they realized they were like, you know what, like black men or black women are actually like beautiful and I'm attracted to them. And then they started, pouring their energy into that and like, thinking long term for them, like maybe they want like black love and like all these other things. So I think like we all kind of went through that transition.
Like a renaissance.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. If I'm being honest, as I should be, right? I'm like thinking about it, and so many things come to mind. Like Shay, you just refreshed my memory of a time of like it wasn't from a black man. It was actually from a black woman, who's like a family friend. Like whenever I too tan in the summertime, right, as we all do, and I remember like she saw me, and she was like in shock, and she was like, what happened to you? You got so dark. And I was like, oh, this is my summer coat, girl. Like, it's no big deal. Like, it's me. It's still Elsa. And she was like, oh, but you were so light. Like, you were so pretty when you were light.
Yeah.
Oh. And I was like, okay, well, good to see you. I hope the kids are well. And that's actually, like, she wasn't the only one that would make comments to me like that. Like, growing up, I had eras of my of where I was darker and lighter because of how much I was outside and just the way my skin like burns in the sun, right? And so there were periods of time where like I would get complimented for how light I was in that era, and then there were times that people would be like, oh my God, you're not as pretty anymore. And I always like, and I was young, like very impressionable age, and I thought like it was so weird. And I'm like, do niggas not get darker in the summertime?
Right.
Do we not all collectively?
We do.
We all,
and also, am I only beautiful because I'm light skinned? Or considered as light skinned?
That's a good question.
And so when it comes to dating now, like it always same like with Shay, like if a guy would give me the sense that like he was only there because I was light skinned, he had to get the boot.
Right?
It was
You
have to the left him real quick.
Right. Yeah.
Because I'm not gonna be made to feel like the only thing I have going for me is being light skinned. And that's from everybody. That again, friend, family, foe, stranger. Yeah. It's like sometimes I have been made to feel like I'm not smart. I'm not inquisitive. I'm not creative. I'm not all of like I don't have my own like quirks about me that make me special. I don't have a uniqueness. The only thing I got going for me, my biggest selling point is that I'm light skinned. Yeah. And so like I had to reconcile with that. Yeah. And from every part of my life. Yeah. Even with dating.
How do y'all this is kind of outside of dating, but how do y'all feel about light skinned women who do embrace that? Like the women who are like, well, I'm light skinned, so I'm better. Like that's what he wants. Like I think literally Danny Lee has a song that is literally, I'm light skinned, I'm the one that he wants. I literally think those are the lyrics.
I wouldn't consider Danny Lee light skinned because I don't think that applies to her. I don't think she's a black woman.
I know there's rumors on like if she's white or black. I have no idea.
Sorry to cut you off, but no, she's full blown Dominican. Her parents look Spaniard. They look Spaniard. And just her and her brother have like like a brown tint to them. But it was like, how are you calling yourself light skinned, Miss Ma'am, when you're not even a part of the community? So you're being it's kind of crazy because I do have this question because I see a lot of different shades of black women calling themselves light skinned. And when I see that, when I see that, I'm just like, okay, so if you're really light skinned, then like, what am I? Like, and that's what I've always, so I'm like, am I white looking? Like at that point, because when she said that, it's like, okay, girl, it's not even applicable. I'm not gonna ignore you because you're not even black. So you can go be in delusional land. And then it's like the rapper Light Skin Keisha. She calls herself Light Skin Keisha. And so I'm just like, okay, so then what am I? Like, not that I even like attach myself to a label, but it's just like when you see other people using those terms, and then you're just like, okay, then what do I really look like to everyone if these other people?
Saying she's not light skinned?
I think she's like
Like darker skin?
She's like brown. She's like a caramel.
Yeah, I wouldn't classify her as
Yeah,
light.
so
I definitely think she's light skinned, but anyway.
yeah, so I know like from different spectrums, like
Yeah.
people see people in different
Different,
lights.
yeah.
So it's like when I see someone that identifies with that term and they don't look like me, like I know there's different shades, but then I'm just like, oh wow, so like what am I really considered?
Yeah.
And to the light skinned women that do uphold that, I just think it's ignorant at this point.
It's
Like
trash.
that's all you have to offer to the world is that you're light skinned. That's a character trait now. That's a personality.
It's a personality.
It's like it's giving mental illness at this point
Right.
that your whole
really
existence
is.
is surrounded by a construct that black men uphold.
Yeah.
So you're literally just playing the tune, you're dancing, you're jiving
Yeah.
at
Yep.
this point, and it's actually sad because it's like that. Then what really goes on behind closed doors when you're not all over social media,
Right.
like when
Yeah.
you're by yourself?
Like,
what do you really think
what are you
about?
doing? Right.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think with them, it's like it comes from black men like putting them on a pedestal.
Oh, of course.
Like black men have put like, oh, we like light skinned girls, and like they've put them on such a high pedestal
They've
that
made
like
it like a
the girls
personality trait now.
are now
Mhm.
like, this is a personality trait. I'm
Yeah.
light skinned, you know, always been light skinned, always been cute, and it's like, okay, so beyond that, like
Right.
who are you? You got
Yeah.
some substance, you got some
Mhm.
personality.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. I saw this TikTok about this girl that mentioned she's kind of she's a unicorn. Her friend described her as a unicorn. So I'm gonna try to describe what a unicorn is. So she used to be, I mean, kind of taking it on a different tangent, but she used to be a bigger girl. So when she was a bigger girl, she had to develop more of like a personality, right? You know, so that, you know, when men come talk to her, she's, you know, funny, she's approachable, she's
Yeah.
outgoing, all these things. So then she lost weight. So now she's like, you know, conventionally skinny woman, right? She's smaller. So like when men approach her, it's like a different kind of expectation. So I think they're only approaching her based on her looks and like not based on her personality.
Yeah.
So they called her a unicorn. I think like with light-skinned women, like sometimes specifically those that like use just their complexion as kind of like their personality, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, what's more? Like, do you have more substance than just your personality or your complexion?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's sad that like I don't know many like I don't know if I know any of those kind of light skinned women in real life.
I don't, and I wouldn't.
I don't
As
want
soon
to.
as
And I
I
wouldn't want
right?
yeah, and
I'm
that's
like,
probably not by coincidence, right? It's probably by
Yeah.
design.
Yeah.
I don't want those kind of women around me.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that these women that exist like on social media or wherever they exist are able now to have a voice for all light-skinned women. And so it has attached like that behavior and those stereotypes have attached itself to women who are seen as light-skinned.
Yeah.
So like for those who would consider me light-skinned, right? They would be like, well, ain't that your song? You don't like that Danny Lee Yellowbone song? And it's like I actually don't. I actually don't. I absolutely don't like that song.
Right. Yeah.
Or her for many for many different reasons, right? So
Right.
it's like it's this constant like having to like delineate what kind of light skin person you are based on what like society is doing and like showing and buying into at the time. Like sometimes like you gotta almost like overcompensate to be like, yo, that's not the shit that I rock with.
Yeah.
Because it's so like that identity is so tied to you wherever you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as somebody sees you open the door, you light skin, it's like there go Danny Lee.
Right.
Whatever. There go Cardi B.
Yeah.
There go, you know what I mean? Like I get called every like light skinned celebrity in the world. And it's
Yeah.
like, please.
And we get called every dark skinned celebrity.
Yeah. and it's frustrating. But at least you get called Michelle Obama. Like you get called
With
like
the brains
really
and the beauty.
dignified
Yeah,
right? Women, graceful women.
Y'all get
Not-
Beyonce?
I don't get
Y'all
Beyonce.
got Beyonce.
Beyonce.
Right. I'm like,
Beyonce?
I wish.
yeah, right. I'm getting loving hip hop stars, girl. Like what?
Not the Cardi B's.
Right.
Yeah, so it's frustrating, but yeah, I think it's safe to say that we all think those
Yeah.
light skinned girls that exist are super trash and they need to know themselves.
Yeah.
For sure.
And even like going back to dating, like it's been interesting because like for my light skinned friends, being able to observe like how men approach you guys in dating has been like, I'm like, wow. Sometimes I'm like,
Talk about it. How did you?
Yeah,
What does that
Get
look
into
like
it,
to
get
you
into
from your
it.
vantage point? How do you witness men approaching your light skinned friends?
I mean, it's many different ways.
Yeah.
Like, there's the way where like they're like what you were saying earlier, Nchimunya, literally
They
elbowing
will
me out the
literally fight you.
Literally will physically move you out the way so they can talk to you.
I'm like,
guys.
don't let the light skin, don't let the light skin have a fat ass too.
It's over.
It's over.
Done at that point.
I'm dead. So it's like either that and you're like completely disregarded. Like that's one, or two. I've seen like where my friend who's light skinned like is getting approached by a man, but she's not interested, and he's just like, he thinks she likes getting the attention because she's light skinned.
Yeah,
and
like
so like
hypersexualization.
you're trying to like help get him away from her, but it's also like, damn, like this isn't. I've had times where I'm like, damn, I'm glad this isn't happening to me. Like this sucks. Like this girl is like really trying to get away from this creepy ass dude. He don't even see me because I'm dark, so I'm not even like he don't even see me. But with her, like he's literally harassing her. Yeah, and I'm like, damn, like I have to get involved and get like break this up. But it's also like, wow, like I don't really have that happen to me. As often. It's happened, but like as often as I see it happen to my light-skinned friends where guys literally harass y'all. Yeah. And it's like,
well, I've seen these men harass you too, but
but it wasn't because I was like dark-skinned. They weren't like harassing me because I'm dark-skinned.
Yeah. They wasn't harassing you because you were fine.
Exactly.
Right.
Right. No, but I've seen obviously guys harass you guys because you're beautiful as well. But I've seen I've been in times where it's literally because like, this is the light-skinned girl. I'm going to go for her. I don't even care what she looks like. Like, that's who I'm going to go do the most with. Yeah. And, I
have a follow-up question for you. Do you feel like... shoot, where did it go?
It'll come back.
Do you feel like you have to, like, fight for them? Or, like, why do you feel like you have to step in that moment when men are harassing, like, your light-skinned friends? Like, why do you feel like you have to step in?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's, like... literally stepping in I feel like I have to break this, like it's my duty. It's more so like if it's very clear that she's not comfortable and like my friends and I have a signal, like if you're like somebody come get like I'ma come get like I'ma come so but it's not necessarily like, oh, I feel like I need to protect her, which I kind of see like what you might have been asking, but it's more so like girl code, like this man is harassing me. I'm like, I need to help out.
I think with my one of my best friends is a lighter skinned woman. With her, I think she kind of like backs down from when she's being harassed, right? She's not confrontational at all, and like I know that, and then that's when I like step in, and then the men are like
saying crazy
things. Ready to fight me. And I think it's because she's not confrontational, and like I think I've had to develop that like, oh, I'm gonna be confrontational because you're making us uncomfortable, and I step in those moments. So I was just wondering.
I feel like my best friend, she's darker skinned, and I'm you. I'm the leave us alone. Like we're not interested. Stop. Like I'm really that person. But when it happens to me, I think this is like a woman thing. Like I proceed with caution because I have been quick. I mean, I'm still young. I'm about to say in my youth, I was quick to pop off. Like I'm not interested. Get out my face. Like not even playing with you. Stop. To now that I've seen what men do when they're rejected, I proceed with caution. I'm like, okay, like, I'm not as verbal. I just have to go with like, because I would literally, me and my friends, when I was in college, we went to the Cheesecake Factory, and this dark-skinned black man was sitting across from the table, and he was like trying to be all up in my face, being very extra, and he had a woman with him, and he kept yelling across trying to get my attention, and I like told him to stop, like leave me alone. And so he came over to our table. I swear 15 minutes this man was cussing all of us out, smacking stuff off our table.
For what?
Like, I know, like at that point I was like, he's gonna pop me, like I already know. And I was just like, I already know. And so The Cheesecake Factory, they literally went and got the black dishwasher after 15 minutes to try to like stop him.
Wow.
And like everyone was just looking at us. I'm like, all because I told you to stop harassing me, sir.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, really?
Yikes.
Like, there was other like black women there, and then we had a black gay man there too, and he was going off on him. So it was just like we were just all in danger at that moment because you're upholding stereotypes, colorism, masculinity, or you know, misogyny and homophobia. And you won't leave us alone. Like,
Yeah.
so literally it's just like, like from that experience I was like, I need to stop because someone's gonna hurt me. Like, like I'd be independent on my own, you know, when I was in college, and I'm just like, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop because something's gonna happen, and I don't want to get that lesson to come back up. So that's when I started to tone it down and just proceed with caution.
Yeah,
definitely. You never know, like especially for Black women. At any point, like your reputation or your safety is at jeopardy, and you just never know which way it's gonna go.
Yeah.
I kind of want to stay on beauty for a little bit longer because, again, I was in R.I.P. Kevin Samuels, but we know that like so much of a woman's existence and so much of Black women's existence is like based on our perceived value, which is how we look, right? Which is crazy to think that like there are dollar signs across all of our foreheads, and they are of different, you know, figures and value based on like what society thinks is beautiful, right? And so much of the way we navigate the world is based on this value, this figure. How do you guys feel beautiful? Like, what makes you feel beautiful? Do you see yourself in that image of beauty?
I think for me, I had to come into my beauty without the opinion of others.
Yeah.
I felt like, growing up in Africa, I was like, okay, I'm a cute girl, right? And then I moved to America, and it was like, you're not getting any attention, like, none of that stuff is happening. And then in college, it was like, okay, you're getting attention now, but then you almost start tying like your beauty into the hands of like other people. So, he doesn't want me, I must not be beautiful enough. And it's like I had to break that shell and be like, okay, who am I as a person? Do I feel confident in my beauty and all of that, to where it's like if a man rejects me, like I'm not gonna go boo-hoo-hooing in the corner. I'm gonna be like, okay, on to the next one. I'm gonna shoot another shot or something, If it doesn't work out with this one, cool. Like it's not a representation of my beauty. Like I really had to grow into that and be like, okay, I'm beautiful. I'm embracing my dark skin. I'm embracing, all these parts about me, and they have nothing to do with anyone else.
Yeah, for sure.
I think for me, I always felt like I was like pretty, but again, like in middle school, elementary, high school, like I was not that girl. I was not. I never got asked to like prom and nothing. Like never. I mean, and maybe it was the school I was at. I don't know, because I would go get my like. I have a twin. I would go get my twin from her high school, and I'm a twin.
Okay, hey twin.
So I would go to her high school, and then I would get like a lot of attention there. So I was just like, okay, I kind of have to find my place where people like me back, so I don't feel bad, about myself, and I also have to figure out what I really like. So once I kind of figured that out in like the dating aspect, like. Like I was like, okay, cool. Like I know, what works for me, what likes me back. So, and then sometimes I feel like now because, like I'm heavily like modeling right now and stuff. So now I have like that whole other like thing going on. Like when I get my pictures back from a shoot and I'm just like, girl, am I really cute? Or like, do I look ugly in this picture? Like, like I'm always like, cause I do follow a lot of models. I meet other models, and not that I'm intimidated by any other woman's beauty. Cause, we're all beautiful, you know, in our own different ways. So it's just, seeing where I fit in and like what I bring to the table. Like I just don't, I don't want to be, she light skin, so she models. It's like, no, like I think I'm actually really beautiful outside of my skin tone. So it's really me like believing that. And then also with like the different like kind of areas that I'm like crossing into, like I am a lowrider model right now. So, you know, just being in that whole community, even though like our like Black people are tied into lowrider community, you know, they love like oldies and, you know, so it's like we're there. And, I'm a part of this like brand that I model for, and I'm like the only like Black girl on it that I've seen so far, that, you know, it's like, okay, you know what, like, you know, I want to be respectful of the culture, but, you know, also represent myself. So I'm always kind of going back and forth, like, oh, am I really cute, or like, am I not, like, you know? So, but it's more so, I guess maybe that's like a different insecurity outside of, you know, colorism, just really grappling with the fact if I really find myself attractive, or, you know, why do other people find me attractive? Because, you know, I am aware that people obviously are drawn towards me, probably follow me because, you know, I am light skinned. But, you know, when it gets down to it, it's like, I really want to know, like, but, you know, I had to believe it. I believe it, but then, you know, it's always like whenever I do a shoot, I'm like, girl, it's a really cute picture. So I'm constantly dealing with that. And that's probably something I have to go, you know, get over myself. So yeah. But in other aspects, it's like, I've always felt that I was cute, just no one was seeing me. You know, I was like, I know I am not ugly, girl. Like, I know I am not. So y'all are sleeping on me. So
love it.
That's real.
Are there,
I was going to have you answer that question too.
Oh, she want me to answer every question.
Yeah,
okay.
Isn't that what we came for?
We don't know how to answer every. Okay.
That's important.
So the question. Well, let's remind me of the question.
The question was, you know, how do you? Yeah, do you see yourself as beautiful? And if so,
yes.
how? And I don't know how you came to that conclusion.
Yeah, definitely now I do, but it was a long journey to get here.
Right.
Long. Okay, like literally, I would say elementary school, junior high school, I was a straight up like tomboy. Didn't even see beauty really as like a thing that I cared about. And that was because of like certain comments that my family made growing up, like when I would wear feminine things that like made me be like, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't wear that. Maybe I'll just wear these basketball shorts. And like beauty like never really crossed my mind, other than like me getting bullied for like I said, features that I had that were like very African looking or too Black looking, and people would target it. And, you know, I was like, oh, okay, so I'm probably ugly then. And that just continued on through high school. And then I would say in high school, what happened was I started developing crushes on men. 0 out of 10, don't recommend. And literally, like, you know, I would try to put myself out there with these guys and like tell them I like them. And, you know, I would get rejected every time. And I got used to getting rejected. And even rejected for like my lighter skinned friends. And so I would just focus on, okay, let me just focus on school. Let me focus on sports. So beauty to me, like I never really saw myself as beautiful, but I didn't necessarily think I was ugly. I just never really saw myself as beautiful. I just was like, I'm neutral. So, but it wasn't until I got to college and like I mentioned earlier, like going abroad to London and all of a sudden getting attention. I guess for me, like my beauty did come from like outside validation. Like me seeing myself as beautiful started coming from that outside validation because I had never really looked at myself in that way before. It came from other people telling me, no, you're beautiful, or like, no, you're attractive, or even like not even just men, but like friends saying like that I met in college who would be like, oh, like you're like gorgeous, or like you're really pretty. And I had never gotten those compliments before. And so as I would hear them, I was like, oh, okay, maybe I am beautiful. Like, and then it became something that I started to notice in myself. And over time, like I grappled with it back and forth, mainly because I had insecurities about how I looked that just never really went away. But for me, like, it was kind of the same thing as you in terms of like, I had to just keep telling myself, you are beautiful, you are intelligent, you know, your body works, your body, like, you know, you love your body, like, all just telling myself that over and over to like where I started believing it. And obviously I still deal with it, and it has been interesting seeing the shift happen to like dark-skinned women being considered beautiful in media and on social media. Like social media, you would think dark-skinned women are like the freaking goddesses of this earth, like literally the way I like on social media, it's like, wow, like we're really uplifted in a way that I don't always see happen in real life.
In real life,
yeah. But it has helped me like see myself in others and be like, oh, well, she looks like me, and so she's gorgeous, so I must be too.
Right.
So it's really taken like that sort of outside validation for me to then be like, okay, this is probably true. So let me tell myself this as well. Yeah. And now it's like I've gotten to a point over the past few years where all of it's converged, and like, you know, when other people tell me that, I don't get like super shocked because I know it to be true of myself. So yeah.
Nice. That was beautiful. And I think you touched on media, so maybe we can talk about, I know those rap lyrics you said you didn't really want to talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, how growing up, how did you guys see yourself represented in music videos, on BET, on MTV, you know what I mean? On
Hip-hop.
magazines. I mean, what magazines were we reading? Like 17 magazine and like all of the little CW shows we used to watch, right? And all the rap lyrics, like, how did that impact how you saw yourself growing up? Shay, you want to go first?
I don't know. I feel like I think as I've gotten older, probably like my teen years, I started noticing like all the colorism comments and rap, like especially Lil Wayne, like
oh my God.
Oh Lord, sir. Yeah, I'm like, oh, like, and we can tell with your dating history.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know, like in media, I've always seen like, you know, dark skinned women. So I just, you know, I grew up appreciating, like, I never thought, oh, I'm special because I'm light skinned, because I would see them like, you know, was it Jet or like, you know, all the old school black magazines,
Ebony,
you know, Ebony, you know, the hair, everything. So
Yeah.
I had always seen it there. So it's like, I knew we were all beautiful.
Right.
And then it was just like when it started to get into like the music, and I was just like, oh, it didn't make me feel like, oh, I'm special, y'all. Like, it was just like, oh, that's kind of weird.
Yeah. It's kind of weird. It's like really weird. Things are getting weird.
It's like, oh, okay, so okay. And then it was just like when it's like, you know, the Kodak Blacks, when they be very like verbal about, I ain't not dating that. Like, and it's just like
ASAP Rocky.
Yeah, I know. Hey, Riri.
Right.
Yeah. So I was just like, how are we?
Chris Brown.
Oh, Chris Brown though. Like, you can tell with all his baby mamas.
Girl, all of them.
All of them.
Drake. I know when I listen to Drake, I'm like, you still grappling with the fact that you're black and you're white. Because that one line, I'm light skinned, but I'm still a dark. I'm like, you're clearly not, because you know, it's kind of like, also on TikTok, it's like all these like white passing, because they're white, kids are coming out saying, oh, you know, I'm black.
And
oh my
it's
God.
just like, yes, the whole family lineage.
They will do the most to prove
it. So where I was just like, you know, I just came to this point where if you really have to sit there and prove it, and like you're talking to the internet, you're not black. You're not, because you just know you are, and you know it, and you're living it. Or you're not, and you just found out that you are, and now you're trying to get into the culture, and it just doesn't work like that, because just how our society is constructed is what you look like is how you're perceived and how you're treated. So the fact that you have to go wear a banner, I'm black, y'all, I'm black, like for the people that are really not black, it's just disgraceful. Like, it's okay to be what you are.
Yeah, you don't want these problems.
You really don't. You don't. Everyone want to be one until it's time to be a nigga. Like, it really is. You know, like, no one really wants to get down to like the nitty gritty of it. But sorry, I was playing with my my thing. I know, like, I was picking my nose, but I was just playing with my nose ring. No, you're good. But yeah, so it's the men. It's very aggressive with the men, and you know, even the white male rappers like Russ and Jack Harlow.
Oh, they talk about light-skinned girls, or
just black women in general. So it's like, oh, if you like, it's like, oh, okay, like you're hip hop because black women like you, like you're part of the community.
Well,
because
a lot of white men get their street cred that way.
Yeah, right. So because
I had fade, little chocolate woman, they think they're the one, and then some.
Yeah, so it's very interesting, like how white male rappers and black male rappers, they expressed their a type and appreciation for Black women in like two different ways. To where to one, it's like, no, like Chris Brown, like if you dark skin, you can't come to the club when I'm there, and it's just like, okay. And then it's the white ones. It's like, no, I'm part of the group now because my girl's Black. I sleep with Black women, and it's like,
of course you do.
Yeah, right.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
Well, it was like weird because I feel like grew up in the 90s. Y'all grew up in the 90s? Yeah. Okay. I'm like, wait.
They seem a little young on their side.
Wait a minute.
We grew up in the 90s.
Yes.
I grew up in the 90s too. I was alive then.
I was alive in the 90s, baby.
They were alive.
Okay, they were alive. Yes, they were people.
Yeah.
But yeah, like growing up when we were younger, I feel like there were so many Black shows with women of all skin tones on the show, like the Parkers, A Different World, The Cosby Show, Different Strokes, all these shows that just had different ranges. And so I feel like growing up, we did have really good representation. And then, at least on TV, music too. Like when hip hop first started, it was very inclusive. Yeah. And then something just happened, like
R&B girls doing music videos. Right?
Yes.
It got really
commercial. Kelly Rowland, you know. And then
we just shifted. We went left. Like in that late 90s, 2000s, we just went left, and we didn't have any Black TV shows anymore. And we didn't, like, our music just became like trash rap of like, that's where all the
red bone, yellow bone.
The red bone, literally those. Like, I like
red bone, yellow bone.
I can't.
Like what? That all happened, and so I don't know. And then everyone just kind of prescribed to that, and they have not let us out of that chokehold ever since.
Shackles.
Like the shackles.
We gotta. But we're here to free ourselves today.
Free ourselves
from those shackles.
Right.
It's crazy.
Have you guys ever subscribed to like the team #Team Light Skin, #Team Dark Skin?
Oh no.
Were y'all ever on Twitter doing that?
Well, first of all,
it's okay.
No. They deleted my Twitter, but no, I don't think so.
Okay.
Like, in what regard? Maybe I wasn't on Twitter.
There was just always, I feel like these moments, like when I was in college, that were like just #Team Light Skin.
Or if you post something like Team Dark Skin, Team Light Skin, like just
no, not really. No.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah. I don't see those as much though.
Thankfully,
these days.
But now I feel like it's we talked about this on our live when you said that you brought up a case where a Black woman, a dark skinned Black woman, was like, "I'm beautiful because I'm dark skinned."
Oh yeah.
Or even like when light skinned girls are like, I'm that caramel mommy.
Yeah.
Boop, 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 like whatever.
I think it's the same, or it's a different side of the same coin, right? They're fetishizing themselves or like putting themselves on a pedestal based on the way that they've been fetishized, whether it's light skin or dark skin, right? So you're like, I'm beautiful because I'm light skin. Why wouldn't I be beautiful? Or dark skin women are like the same, like I'm beautiful because I'm dark skinned, because again, men put them on that pedestal enough to be able to do that.
And you would agree that that's also colorism?
Yeah.
Or do you not agree?
Like colorism from
like if a dark skinned Black woman said, "I'm beautiful because I'm dark skinned," is that colorism? I
think so, but I think there's a little nuance for me, because it's like historically Black dark skinned women haven't been celebrated, and it's like, okay, celebrate yourself, girl, but like it also there's a little bit of a nuance there, but it's not like I think it's still colorism, but like there's a little bit of a nuance there where it's like, okay, maybe she's just coming into being dark skinned, and after being bullied, and I'm not speaking for anyone, but like after being bullied and after being told you're not beautiful for so long, they might have to subscribe into that narrative.
Yeah. Well, we didn't really get to ask, going back to dating Black men real quick, because we asked this on the last episode. We didn't ask it here.
Oh, yeah.
Do y'all, for Black men, do y'all have stereotypes, like when you see like a light-skinned Black man or a dark-skinned Black man, are things going through your mind? Like what do your stereotypes for Black men?
And do you have a preference? Are you like, I only date dark skinned guys, or I only date light skinned guys? Let's get into it.
I typically, I have dated some light skins, but it's not my number one type.
Okay.
I like chocolate, dark skin. Get me someone darker than me.
He said, come.
Get me someone darker than me.
Yeah.
That's my type.
Okay.
So
That's my type.
that's my type.
Okay.
We don't
We hear
discriminate against
Is
light-skinned
there a
men.
reason for that, or you just what?
I feel like it's just like what I'm attracted to. Like I'm attracted to tall, dark-skinned men, tall chocolate men,
tall, dark, handsome.
And like the light skins, like you're cute, and I can appreciate. Like I appreciate, like you know, even like with white men, like dated white men and Latino and Asian and everyone. I'm like, if you cute, you cute. But like, what really makes
you just
it,
have a really strong attraction.
Really strong attraction, really strong pull.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Release me from the shackles.
I know you suffering.
I don't know if we can release
suffering.
you.
I don't want to be released, but I'm suffering.
Okay. What about you, Shay?
Well, I've attracted like all shades, and I've never been like, no to anyone. It's just it's always been the ignorant one, so I can't even say that I have a preference for either or, because that's just not even what I've dated.
Yeah.
So
for those of you watching, for those of you black men watching, if you are going to approach Shay,
oh my God,
if she might not even be on the market, I don't know. Right. I'm just saying, if you're gonna approach her, you need to be respectful. And all of these like stereotypes, you need to love yourself.
Just love
yourself. Don't approach her on no like self-hate ish, because she's not gonna have it.
Right.
Do you have dating preferences?
I can't stand Elsa.
People want to know.
I actually don't. And we talked about this on the last episode. Like, I do not. I feel like I attract like more dark skinned men come to me. But I don't have a preference. Like, I've been seen with light skinned men, and I feel like I don't really see like, oh, like this light skinned nigga. Like, I don't really see that. I'm just like, okay, it's a black guy. But other people see it for me. So I've definitely been out with like light skinned men, and like other women are like, what is he doing? Like, why is he with her? Like, what's going on here? Like, alarms are going off. So that's happened. But I personally don't have a preference. Light skin, dark skin, y'all all good to me.
Oh my God. All right, so those of you watching, that's
and I think like we also have to kind of free ourselves from the stereotype of like what a light skinned man, is and what a dark skinned man is. Like we as black women have to free ourselves from those stereotypes too, just because like, light skinned man is usually the more emotional, soft one, right? And for me, I've had to be like, I like confident men, and I've had to free myself from like, that's only tied to like light skinned men. Like, no, that's not. Or it's not only tied to like one or the other.
We need to do better too in that regard.
Oh yeah,
just like we don't want black men to identify light-skinned women a certain way or dark-skinned women a certain way. If there's any equalizing that can happen in like the dating marketplace, it's that these stereotypes are trash, and they were by design and constructed by not even our people. These are constructed. These were like white social norms and ideals that we just happen to continue to perpetuate. So we definitely need to let that go, because we need more black love, period.
I do want to add something just because I keep saying like I didn't date no black men, which I don't like, which I have not. It's not that I don't date black men, I just have not. Whatever. But my dating history has been like Latino men. So, and just going off of like the colorism like topic, I do know, or just my pattern is like I can't, if they're like very white looking, I just can't do it. Like, you have to be brown. Like, and I think I'm just not comfortable, so it's like but it's like I'm usually attracted to the the brown and proud, like they're embracing themselves, they're embracing their history. The Spaniard, it's not for me. Even though it's, it's mixed in there, there's this guy that was like, is it because I'm not black? And I'm just like, no, it has nothing to do with the fact you're not black. He was Puerto Rican. But it was just like, it's just we're not connecting on that level. And they're in like their community, like light skin is what we consider white passing. So to me, it's like, oh, you're a white man. It's like, yeah, you might be Puerto Rican, whatever, like, but you're a white man. So like what we consider light skin and what we consider white are like two completely different things. So I know like I'm just not attracted to those type of men, and that it's usually, on the, darker,
side
my color or, darker.
Yeah.
So
that's so interesting because like when you go to places like in Latin America or in Asia, like no, like they also have colorism. They're also dealing with like lighter skin being more beautiful. In Africa, in the Caribbean, we're bleaching. Like we're all still dealing with this. It's a global pandemic, like literally. So that's interesting to hear that you actually prefer the darker skin Latinos because it like I know in that culture like it's usually lighter skin that's preferred. So
like my partner, he's brown. I wouldn't say he's like super like tan. He's definitely not. But it's like if you see him, like he's Latin. I don't know. Some black people think he's black, and I'm like, he's not black. Like he looks like Nipsey, and I'm like, my brother was like, he's black. I'm like, that's not Nipsey. But so I know it's not my thing. If like you look like a white man to me, I can't. I'm sorry.
So that's your preference.
Yeah.
Which, have you ever dated white men?
No.
Oh, okay.
I have had them interested, like as friends, but as dating, no.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think it's interesting because you talked about like the global community and bleaching. Like, I feel like there are so many more melanated people in the world than there are. Maybe I'm making this up, but like when I think about like countries with like the biggest like density in their population, you think about like Africa, you think about like some of the Middle East and India and even parts of Asia and the Philippines and parts of Latin America. Like more often than not, I think like we're more melanated in the world than we're not. Yeah. And like I said earlier, like we know that the first people to walk this earth were black people. Yeah. So it's crazy that in the 21st century, right, we find ourselves having to deal with the pitfalls of how our color has been like thrown and against us to divide us. We should all look at each other as like kin and community and not have to feel like when we walk into a room there's this like competition and like caste system. We can acknowledge one exists, but not feed into it in a way that also divides us. Yeah. So I think that's like the main point leaving this conversation for me.
Yeah. Well, let me ask y'all one last like crazy question.
Oh my God.
Well, no. Do y'all think and this is getting into Hotep territory, so I apologize.
Oh, Lord, Dr. Umar. I love me some Dr. Umar.
Be funny. Do y'all think if like white people didn't exist and didn't create this sort of caste system, we would have still sort of arranged ourselves in this way based on color and skin tone?
If white people did not exist, would colorism exist?
I still think so, to some regard, just because like we talk about like global colorism, we talk about colorism in like India, and India is really known for like skin bleaching. You know, was that Fair and Lovely?
They were colonized too, though.
True. Yeah. But I just I don't know. I almost want to still believe that it would still exist because again people have different preferences. So my people, I don't think it would be as aggressive, but it would probably be like kind of just people's preferences as to like, oh, I like a darker skinned or I like a lighter skin. So it's not anything like
I see what you mean,
driven by stereotypes or like driven by European features or Eurocentric features. It's just more of like, for me, I just like dark-skinned men, and I don't think like if white people didn't exist, I'd be like, okay, cool. Yeah. I'm still going to the chocolate side.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I say no.
No.
Yeah.
Elaborate.
No, it's just if it were not for the American European imperialism and I don't think so. I don't think our economic systems would have been impacted. I don't think our political systems would have been impacted. Yeah. will there have been a caste system of some sort? Of course. I don't know if it would necessarily be predicated on skin color, though.
Yeah.
So I would have to say my imagination will not allow me to see a world of colorism had the Europeans not introduced it to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because, yeah, if you really read the history of what they really did to get other white people to believe that Black people were animals, like it's so deeply rooted in European colonization, the fake science, the people acting like they were the first, discoverers of Africa and America and the Americas at the time. I just no, it's like, racism and the white supremacy is so festered into everything down to like what we eat. So where I think there would have definitely been a caste system. Yes, there would have been preferences, but to be such a monster that it is, a disease, I know. I definitely feel like it's what came out of the colonization of the world everywhere because it was taught, it was implanted. Even, the masters raping the enslaved women, like, and that, starting those biracial, the house, the biracials.
One drop, like, all
mulattoes. We need to actually delete.
All of that.
We got to delete that. Because it's getting a little out of hand. They get a little drop of African, now they Black. Like, it's really, I've at this point, it just come to the realization that the people that go so hard to let the world know that they're Black and they want to be Black, it's really a disease because it just seems like all these other races are not proud to be what they are. Like, Black people are at the center right now. And I think maybe that's how it was always going to be. Africa, is the motherland, like, to everyone. And we're kind of getting there in a way, but not really because it's always a tug of war. But it's just... I think it would be like completely different in a different way. I don't think it would be so aggressive as it is.
Right.
No,
and
totally.
it's like a monster that like we now have to undo, right?
Yeah.
We all we're fighting the beast.
It's crazy. Centuries later. Like white supremacy is such a well-oiled machine.
Oh yeah,
that it's still alive and thriving.
And it's like our parents also have been beaten by that beast, right? So if you talk about bleaching and growing up in an African household, like my mom didn't aggressively bleach, but she definitely has some products. But I have aunties that are like bleached down, and I feel like as a dark-skinned woman, I was like, I wonder if I stayed in Africa much longer, would I have fallen into, because I moved to America when I was like 11, right? So it's like if I had stayed much longer, would I have been one of those women that like eventually had to bleach because the society pressure. And I've had cousins that darker than me, now the girl's lighter than me, and I'm like,
which is crazy,
she fell into that pressure.
And like that's crazy that pressure is so strong in Africa.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And like that colonization, that shit is real. The psychological warfare they did, like elite, like crazy. But anyway, thank you for indulging my question. Did we have like any final remarks that we want to make about colorism or any of the topics we talked about, or anything y'all wanted to say but didn't get to?
We just gotta kill it. We gotta kill colorism. And that's on
period.
And don't compare me to no European woman.
Period. Okay.
Y'all better go to East Africa, like see what they looking like.
Like what? And also, like, I am not the only representation of like what an Ethiopian or East African looks like. I feel like if you see my family, like I don't even want to go into it because we're closing, we're wrapping up here, but. We come in all shades, like Africans in general, like I'm sure in shades. Nigeria and all parts of Africa, you have people who are light skinned, you have people who are very dark. We hit that full spectrum. And I think that's just the beauty of our people. And that's something to be celebrated. Yeah. Not something to divide us.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Special thank you to our beautiful guest today for talking about such a really, we got into some vulnerable stories and topics, so it's not easy to like touch on, and you guys did it like champs. If you're comfortable, maybe you can tell the people where they can find you If you want to share, your social media, or you don't have
or
to.
You don't
That's
have to.
It's
Anything
optional.
you're working on or excited about, whatever you guys want to share.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you guys for having us on the show. It was really fun to get to talk about our experiences. And I think the first part of kind of tackling that beast is acknowledging it and having these type of conversations. And thank you. You can find me on Instagram at Nchimuns. So that's Nchimuns. I believe I spelled that correctly. I don't know.
I think you did.
We'll tag you anyway.
Right.
Tag me.
Yeah.
Again, yes, thank you for having us. Thank you for inviting me back. It's so good to see you guys. I did want to comment to the guys that were here before. Thank you for acknowledging that some black men, perpetuate it. So just thank you for that. You guys can find me at Shay Bones on Instagram.
Yes.
It's Shay with the second Y, Bones with an S. But yeah, I have a few little projects. I just got done with my photo shoot with cookies.
Hey.
So,
See how you're working, y'all. She working. Ow. I love it. Yeah.
So stay tuned.
Yes. Well, you know where you can find us at Wokeland on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We are Wokeland Podcast.
Oh, and YouTube.
Oh, and now YouTube.
Yeah.
You can watch this.
You can actually watch
see
this.
us talking. But yeah, thank you guys for listening and watching. And with that, stay woke.
Bye.